Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to tackle something that I think is relevant to pretty much everyone.
Mm,
The sometimes perilous world of contract law.
absolutely.
But specifically, we're going beyond just the basics of like what is a contract, which
Right.
we all know.
Yeah.
And we're diving headfirst into the intricacies of offer acceptance
hmm
and even like how to back out of a deal gracefully or at least legally.
Yeah. And let me tell you, sometimes gracefully and legally don't exactly go hand in hand.
And that's what we're here to uncover today. We've got landmark cases, surprising legal twists, and real-world scenarios that'll make you rethink like every handshake agreement you've ever made.
It's true.
Expert speaker, are you ready to unpack all this with me?
I am so ready. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with the nitty-gritty here.
Okay.
Offer and acceptance.
hmm
What makes an offer like legally binding?
Yeah.
Is it always about signing on the dotted line, or can things get a little
Oh, yeah.
more nuanced?
It is not always as simple as getting it in writing. You would think it would be.
You would think.
But there are absolutely situations where your actions can be just as binding as a signature.
Oh, wow.
So even if you don't sign
Okay.
a verbal agreement, if the other party can prove that you acted as though a deal was made, that can sometimes be enough.
That's interesting because we sort of operate on the assumption that, like, without a signature, we're in the clear.
And that is precisely where things can get tricky.
Okay.
Let's look at the case of Evertight Roofing v. Green.
Okay.
We have a roofing company thinking they've secured a job.
Okay.
They start getting materials together, dispatching their crew to the site, really get the ball rolling.
Uh,
But at the last minute, the homeowner gets cold feet and says, nope, sorry, we've changed our minds.
oh, I see where this is going. Classic homeowner switcheroo.
Classic homeowner switcheroo.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. There was no signed contract.
Oh, no.
The homeowner assumed, hey, no signature. I'm free to back out.
Right.
However,
Oh.
the court saw it differently.
Yeah.
They ruled that by initiating the work, gathering the materials, sending the crew, the roofers had effectively accepted the offer, even without that formal signature.
Wow. So the court essentially said actions speak louder than words, even if those words aren't on paper.
Sometimes they do.
Talk about an expensive miscommunication.
You see how this could be a problem.
Yeah.
And this is why, for anybody listening, especially if you're in a business where work often begins before contracts are fully finalized,
Right.
this is a perfect example of how important it is to get those agreements in writing. Don't leave it up to chance or assumptions.
It's a good reminder for everyone, really. But
Yeah.
what about those times where you're the one wanting to hit the brakes?
Go.
Can you always revoke an offer once it's been made, or are there situations where it's just too late to backpedal?
Ah, the million-dollar question.
Right.
Revocation, taking back an offer, is not always as straightforward as you might think.
Okay.
Sometimes it's as simple as a clear, I withdraw my offer. But other times it gets a little murky. Like the case of Dickinson v. Dodds,
Okay.
an oldie but a goodie from 1876.
Wow.
So we're talking about a property sale.
Okay.
The seller makes an offer, but then before it's formally accepted, they decide to sell to someone else.
Okay.
The original potential buyer, they catch wind of this other deal.
Oh.
Not directly from the seller, though, but through, like, the grapevine.
So it's like a finders keepers for the second buyer?
Not exactly.
Right.
Because, see, even though there wasn't a formal, I revoke my offer,
Right.
the court decided that because the buyer knew about this other deal,
Okay.
the original offer was essentially off the table.
Really?
Yeah, they call this indirect revocation.
So even hearing it secondhand was enough to nullify the offer? That's crazy. It really shows how important like timing and communication is.
Absolutely. A slight delay, a
Yeah.
missed message. It can totally change the game.
Right.
But you know what's interesting is what if you want to press pause on an offer
Okay.
just to buy yourself some time to think?
You mean like a safety net in case you change your mind or you find a better offer?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where option contracts come in.
Okay.
These agreements, they give you like a guaranteed window of time
Okay.
to decide whether or not you actually want to go through with a purchase,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're like trying to negotiate a better price in the meantime.
Right.
So you have that security.
I like it.
Yeah. And a perfect example of this is the Humble Oil Refinery case.
Okay, yeah. I've heard whispers of this one.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me everything.
So in this case, you have a potential buyer who has the option to purchase this piece of land.
Okay.
And, they're trying to sweeten the deal a little bit with some last-minute negotiations.
Sure.
But the seller's not biting.
Oh, no.
So you'd think the buyer's out of luck, right? Not at all. because they had this option contract.
Oh.
They're still entitled to buy the land at the original price, even though their little negotiation attempt there fell through.
Wow.
The court upheld their right to buy, despite the seller saying, like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
Wow, talk about dodging a bullet.
Yeah.
Legally speaking.
I know, right?
That's amazing. It really shows like the power of having that extra agreement in place.
Absolutely. Option contracts can really give you that peace of mind
Right.
in a world where things change all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked about like signing on the dotted line,
Right.
but are there situations where you can actually accept an offer without saying yes?
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about partial performance,
Okay.
and that can definitely count as acceptance in the eyes of the law.
So you're telling me a handshake isn't always necessary to seal the deal?
Not always. Picture this.
Hmm.
A real estate broker is working tirelessly to find a buyer for a property,
Okay.
making calls, knocking on doors, and finally they find the perfect match.
Great.
But just as the seller's about to make things official,
Oh.
they get cold feet, try to back out.
Oh, that's brutal. Can they do that?
Well, the courts have weighed in on this, and one case that comes to mind is Marchiondo v. Scheck.
Okay.
In this case, the court ruled that the broker's actions finding the buyer counted as acceptance of the agreement, even though the seller hadn't signed anything yet.
So it was the broker's hustle that basically solidified the deal.
Exactly. The court recognized that the broker had held up their end of the bargain, even if the paperwork wasn't completely finalized.
That's wild. It's a great example of how those actions can be just as powerful as a signature.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about subcontractors
Okay.
and the unique contractual challenges that they face.
Right.
Because they're often in this like dance of offers and acceptances.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Subcontractors are like the unsung heroes or sometimes the cautionary tales of the construction world.
Right.
Their bids are so important, especially when a general contractor is relying on those to put together a larger project bid. It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. If one domino falls, the whole thing can crumble.
Right.
And we see this perfectly illustrated in the case of Drennan v. Star Paving. A subcontractor made a mistake on their bid classic.
Oh, no.
Submitted a price that was way too low.
Oof. I can already tell this isn't going to be good.
This does not end well for them.
Yeah.
The general contractor, completely unaware of this mistake, uses that low bid when they're submitting their proposal for this bigger project.
Okay.
And they win the bid.
Oh, no.
Then the subcontractor realizes their mistake.
Yeah.
They try to back out.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's not going to fly.
Yeah.
The court sided with the general contractor.
So they were stuck with the lowball bid.
They were stuck, and the court called this promissory estoppel.
Okay.
Essentially because the general contractor had relied on that bid in good faith, the subcontractor was legally obligated to honor it, even though it was a mistake.
So if I'm understanding this right, simply relying on a subcontractor's bid makes it like legally binding. Are there any exceptions to that?
It's not always so clear-cut.
Okay.
We have another case, Baird v. Gimbel Brothers,
Okay.
which, might be decided differently today. But it serves as a good reminder that reliance on a bid doesn't automatically create an unbreakable contract.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How did this one differ from the paving situation?
So in Baird, we again have this general contractor soliciting bids from subcontractors for a project.
Okay.
And just like in Drennan, a subcontractor submits a bid that's significantly lower than it should have been because of a miscalculation.
Of course.
And they quickly try to retract the bid.
Okay.
But here's the catch. This all happened before the general contractor had actually been awarded the main project.
So the timing was different this time.
Exactly. The timing was different.
Mm-hmm.
In Drennan, the contractor had already won the project based on that bad bid.
Right.
In Baird, they hadn't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
And because of that, the court in Baird said, yeah, you can withdraw the bid.
Wow. So it really all came down to timing.
Timing and the specific language of any agreements that are in place.
Right.
Until there's a clear acceptance of an offer, a party typically has the right to revoke it. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean there aren't going to be repercussions for making these careless errors,
Sure.
but it doesn't automatically mean a win for the person who's relying on the faulty bid.
Right. This is all so fascinating. It's amazing how what might seem like a straightforward agreement can actually have all these like legal nuances.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what's so captivating about contract law. It's full of twists and turns.
Yeah.
What might seem fair and straightforward in one situation can be totally different in another.
Exactly. It really seems like contract law is less about memorizing a bunch of rules and more about
Yeah,
understanding all the tiny little details
100%.
of every situation.
Yeah, it's like you're navigating this complex game
Right.
where any move you make could have all these unforeseen consequences.
Yeah. And just like in a game,
Right.
experience is the best teacher.
Absolutely.
So for our listeners out there who
Hmm.
maybe are about to enter into some contract negotiations themselves,
Right.
what's like the most important thing to keep in mind?
Knowledge is power. Go into any agreement with your eyes wide open
Mm,
because what seems like a simple, straightforward agreement on the surface
right.
can actually have all these hidden complexities.
Oh, yeah.
So understanding the different ways that offers and acceptances can actually happen,
Okay.
knowing your rights when it comes to revocation,
Mm,
recognizing those potential pitfalls,
right.
those are the tools that'll help you navigate this whole world successfully.
It's like being proactive instead of reactive.
100%. A
Yeah,
little bit of foresight can prevent so many headaches later.
that's so true. Well, expert speaker, thank you so much for walking us through all this.
Of course.
It's been a truly fascinating deep dive.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And for our listeners, remember, knowledge is power. So keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.